Welcome to the Directors Club podcast, the podcast that helps you learn the business skills you need as a childcare center director to build enrollment, retain your best teachers, and get your center operating just how you want it. I'm Noelle Dentino. I'm a fellow childcare center owner and active director with my sister Sarah. We operate a successful childcare center in Massachusetts. By merging my background in business with Sarah's background in early education, we found the perfect recipe for a successful center. We have a membership for directors that teaches short training videos with done-for-you business process so you can implement and take action today. When childcare center directors implement these practices, they create the center they always dreamed of, a thriving childcare center community. The Directors Club podcast will provide you with simple business tips to help you get things done at your childcare center. Hey there, it's Noelle from the Directors Club, and today I want to share with you the importance of onboarding. And I'm going to share a story with you that just happened to my family recently, and I think it will set the stage for you at some point committing to up-leveling your onboarding system. My daughter's graduating college last weekend and heading to grad school where she's going to get her degree in clinical psychology, her master's in it. And she wants to work with young children who have been through trauma. Commendable. I think that's awesome that she's going to do that. I don't know how anybody can work with someone with trauma. I think that's so hard, but I think it's so commendable that someone does that. She's decided a few months ago that she wanted to start working with kids. And she had worked at my childcare center. She worked at Scribble Time for 2 years. She has the time in. She has her teaching certificate. And she's really good working with young kids. And so she ended up getting a job about 2 months ago with a company for autistic children. She started with a 3-week orientation program. She loved it. Every day for 3 weeks, Monday through Friday, they had to work. I don't know what the hours were, but they worked a lot. And it was in person. It was Zoom videos. It was live Zoom. It was her learning on her own. It was a variety and mixed different ways that she had to learn all about her new role. And she's not a behavior technician, but she works below that person. And so she had to learn techniques and how to document things and all the things, right? She gets her assignment and she's going to be working with a young child, a 6-year-old. And they're going to spend 4 to 5 days together a week. And it's going to switch every week. 4 days one week, 5 days the next. She's going to spend 2 days a week in the clinic with him and then 3 days a week at his home. 2 to 3 days, depending. So, day one of her off on the road, she gets a trainer that works with her. First day, she is in the clinic and her trainer's with her. And she introduces the trainer. The trainer introduces Gabby to the father and the child. And then she says, "Oh, I'll be right back." And she leaves them alone for 45 minutes. And then she comes back. And she tells the child that he can go on the iPad. He gets 7 minutes on the iPad or something like that. She says, "Oh, you can have 7 minutes on the iPad." And she leaves. And then she comes back. And then and she does one activity with him, and then she leaves and comes back. This for 4 hours. She spends barely any time in the room, and it's mostly just Gabby and her. And at some point, Gabby and the family. So at some point, Gabby leaves, and she's, "Aren't we supposed to be doing things with him?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah, but I thought you could get to know the parents." And she said, "It's 4 hours. We're just sitting here." She was so uncomfortable. She didn't say anything to the woman. The next day, she has to go to the house. So she's driving to the house, and my daughter, luckily, gets there early. And she doesn't go to the house. She sits in a parking lot like at a shopping plaza so that she's not late. And while she's sitting there, she's got 15 minutes to wait. She's sitting there and she gets a text message from the trainer. And she's, can't make it today. Go find yourself another trainer to help you out. And it's like in 15 minutes. And who's going to come all the way out here? Like, she was at the house and it was a little out of the city. Needless to say, no one came. She had to go to the house by herself. She had 0 activities planned because she's not supposed to plan anything. She's supposed to observe the trainer. Well, again, the trainer didn't come. The next day, same thing. They're at the center. She's barely in and out. And so now my daughter wants to quit. I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know what I'm doing. No one's showing me anything. And I had to keep encouraging her because eventually, after the training period, she's going to be alone with the child. And my daughter's really structured. And I said to her, I have no idea what kind of activities they do with them. And she said, some of the same things you do at the school. So I said to her, why don't you, during the day, before your next session, plan some curriculum? And that way you have something, like something you know that he can do. She did that. She went to the dollar store. She bought a bunch of stuff. She created all these little things. She laminated stuff, so cute. And she had some activities. And then same thing happened with the trainer, didn't show up. And she's, I have to quit. And I'm like, Gabby, you are going to drive the sessions with him going forward. Like, you're done training now. You got no training. And she was so discouraged. It was text messages and phone calls all day and night for the week to me and my husband saying she had to quit. She couldn't do this. She was so stressed out. And we just kept encouraging her, saying, you're going to get to a point where you're alone and you're in charge of that time period and you can structure the time period. That's what she ended up doing over the weekend before her first week of her doing the sessions on her own. And she created this schedule and she created games and laminated things and got things. And she got into the second week of working with the child, and she did really well. And then she got a new boss. All of a sudden, new boss shows up and comes to the house, and they go outside, and she says to Gabby, what can I do to support you? And Gabby says, I'm so stressed out. I've never no one trained me in person with anybody. And she was like, you are doing phenomenal. And she pointed out, like, she was documenting above and beyond what they required, that the activities she saw Gabby do were age appropriate and they were exactly on target with the goals that they had. And then she reassured her that she was doing a good job. And then Gabby explained why she thought she wasn't doing a good job. And she said, no one trained me. And she said, she apologized. And she said, I'm in charge now, and I'm going to make sure that no one else comes on board and doesn't get trained, and I can give you the training that you need to support you. And that night, Gabby got home and she was like, I met my new supervisor. She's so awesome. I can text her anytime. She still hasn't texted her yet, which is so funny. You just need to know. She needed to know she had somebody. And so this whole thing reminded me, and we talked about this. I said to her, sometimes you start a job and it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. And you either give up and walk out, or you learn from it. And I said it wasn't going to be every day. If every day you were working with a co-teacher or a co-tech behavior therapist and they didn't show up, that'd be one thing. I said, but you were getting trained. You weren't trained appropriately. It didn't go as you thought it would. You didn't get the support that you thought that you needed. And I said, but it's a good lesson, because someday when you're in that role of leadership, you'll know exactly how you want to treat your new employees and the support you want to give them, and that anxiety level that you had, you don't want them to have it. So we took a lot from that, and she's loving her job, and I'm glad she stuck it out. And it reminded me of the importance of onboarding and how it can affect the person not coming back, even though you're like, oh, everything's so great. Because I remember a day that I was at a center consulting with them, and I was advised that a new employee was coming in, and then she came in, And the director pointed to a door and said, "Oh, go in there. And I'm going to come in there in a little bit and tell you what you're doing, but that's where you're going to work today." And the girl walked into the classroom. No one introduced her to anybody. I left after. It was late afternoon. She never went back in there. There was actually confusion in the afternoon at some point in front of me that she had no lunch break. She never planned a lunch for her. So the girl was still sitting there in the afternoon with no lunch break. Sometimes our onboarding might not be that dramatic where we're just throwing the teacher into a classroom and like, good luck to you. You might introduce them and walk away. But really, it's so important that we find ways to come up with a more formalized onboarding system so that you just set the teachers up for success and set your center up for success. I'd like to go through 5 things that I like to make sure that you have in place for your onboarding. The first step is pre-arrival preparation. I think it's so important that a teacher shows up and that you're ready for her. I can't stand it when a new employee shows up, like when we used to have a time clock and you would have to grab your time card and punch it. That's not ready for them. It needs to be ready. They need to see that and be like, oh, they're expecting me. You can even make sure they have a locker if you have lockers or places to put their things. It's also great to tell the team that they're coming and make sure that the team knows that they're going to be there. I think it's also good to reach out to them during your pre-arrival, the first day they come. Reach out to them, talk to them about, email them and talk to them about your website and think of things they might be stressed about, dress code, start time, all those types of things. All right, this next thing, the number 2 that you can have for your onboarding is like first day orientation. What's the plan for them? Have a plan, even type it up and hand it to them and say, here's your plan for the day or the 2 days or the 3 days. We typically don't like to put people in the numbers for the first or second and third day. We like them just to observe and be part of it and give them tasks like slowly as they get more comfortable. In Massachusetts, though, they just changed the law on your first day where you need to take, it's 12 hours of training before you even walk in a classroom. Now we're having to shift our orientation to be 2 full days in the staff room with a computer. Not fun. Let's see how that goes. And then we'll give them their 3 days in the classroom. Number 3 is providing a mentor, some buddy system. Have someone at the front door greeting them when they come in. Or at your next staff meeting, assign somebody to go over and say hi to them when they first get there and ask them to sit with them. Make them feel welcome and noticed. I think that's important. Step 4 is regular check-ins and feedback. I think it's good to have feedback at the first week, the end of the first week. Call them in. How's it going? Is there anything I can do to support you? Do you have any questions? Are you anxious about anything? Really start checking in with them and starting building that relationship as the leader and that you care about what they're going through. And then step 5 is never stop training them. Always can add training to staff meetings, share trainings that they might benefit from, and really help them build their tool belt up to whatever the next step that they want to go to. This story of Gabby shows you that she loves her job. And I'm so glad that she was tough enough to stick it out. She was so uncomfortable. Her anxiety was through the roof. She did not feel supported. And she did stick it out, luckily. Luckily, she had us pushing her. We were like, you can do it. We were like, just give it another week. We wanted her to see what it felt like to be responsible on her own because we knew it might be a little bit different. But you might not have somebody cheering on that teacher that comes to your school, that gets thrown in the mix, that doesn't get introduced to people, doesn't know what the plan is, thrown in a classroom without anything, just stressed out. And I know that we are struggling to find people in our field, and it'd be so easy, day one, to put them in the ratios. But give yourself a couple more days. Let them ease into the center. Make sure you're checking in with them. Give them a mentor at the next staff meeting so that they feel welcome at the staff meeting and not overwhelmed walking into a room of 20 or 30 women. And just continuously provide them with ongoing training. When we set up a really formal process, type it up. Don't just wing it every time you have somebody. Type up what you're going to do for onboarding and just have it in the file so that someday if you delegate it or you're out sick, somebody can jump in, look at the file, and know exactly how to onboard that teacher so that you increase your chances greatly by having them stay and stick through the first week or two. I hope you have longevity with all of your new teachers that you're hiring and you learn the story of my daughter and how important onboarding is. I hope you have a great day. Bye, everybody.